Opening credits. Alien Boss. Alien Sci-Fi Romance Short Story. By Selena Coffey. Auto-narrated using Google technology. Chapter 1. Amy was positive her boss was out to make her life miserable, but she hadn't been able to prove it yet. Every day when she arrived in the office, she got straight to work, always checking her emails and voicemails first and making sure she was on time with all her deadlines second. Every day her boss Jack arrived at 9, glared at her, and proceeded to point out that she had deadlines to meet, and she should spend less time drinking coffee and more time working, before telling her to go get him coffee. Every day, Amy wanted to walk out and tell Jack where to shove his coffee, only to be reminded that she had rent to pay and food to buy. Amy then proceeded to get Jack his coffee, and after getting back to her desk, she checked the classifieds to see if there were any jobs out there. Every day she was disappointed, and after a moment of drowning in misery, she'd get back to work to ensure her clients stayed happy. Karen Enterprises was her newest account, while she had gotten a handsome bonus for signing them, and one of the other bookkeepers usually picked up the backups and documentation needed to prepare their financial statements. Those weren't due for another 2 weeks, but on Tuesdays she also prepared payroll for them, which they emailed to her by 10 in the morning. When Amy still hadn't received it by 11, she picked up her phone and dialed the direct line for one of the bookkeepers at Karen Enterprises. "Hi, this is Amy. I was just calling to see where payroll was." "Hi, Amy. We are having some issues with our computers. Would someone be able to pick it up? I was able to print the spreadsheet, but both our email and the fax machine are down." "Sure, I'll come get it. I think it's about time I meet you all anyway, so I'll be there in about 20 minutes. Amy hung up the phone and sighed. While it was true she really should meet the bookkeepers she worked with regularly, she also wished the bookkeeper who worked under her at Glommer & Glommer didn't have the day off so she could go instead, like she usually did. Amy changed her status on the time entry program to indicate where she was going, switched her phone to out of office, and walked out into the sunshine. It was a beautiful day, and Amy wished she could stay outside, but instead she walked down the street to Karen Enterprises. It was only 4 blocks and walking was easier. The fact that it got her out of the office longer was an added bonus. "Hi, I'm here to pick up a spreadsheet from Susanna," Amy told the receptionist as soon as she walked in. "She told me you would be coming. You can go right up to the 10th floor." "Thank you," Amy said with a smile before making her way to the elevators. Karen Enterprises was a large corporation, employing thousands of employees and with revenues at hundreds of millions of dollars. She only did payroll for the management-level salaried employees, while the hourly payroll was outsourced, and for that she was glad. She looked around in interest and noticed that the walls were granite and the floors a beautiful stone. As soon as she stepped into the elevator, she couldn't help but admire the beautiful woodwork that adorned the walls. It was clear that whoever had designed the building had not spared any expense and paid great attention to detail. "Hi, I'm here to see Susanna," Amy told the next receptionist up on the 10th floor. "Go right on in, she's the 3rd office on your left," the girl smiled back at her, pointing at the doors to her left. Clearly the receptionist downstairs had called up to announce her arrival, and when she walked into Susanna's office, she was already out of her seat and ready to greet her. "It's so nice to finally meet you. I feel that so much is lost when you can't put a face to the name. Here's the spreadsheet before I forget. Also, Mark heard you were coming and asked me to show you up to his office so he can meet you. While he has heard great things about you from other clients you work with, he felt that it was important that he actually met you. Come on, it's 1 floor up." The ride up was quiet, and the second they stepped out of the elevator, Amy knew they were on the executive floor. Not only were the walls granite, the floors were marble. The chairs in the waiting area were nice, comfortable armchairs, and there were large, expensive-looking paintings on the walls. Large wooden doors to either side of the receptionist's desk fit into everything perfectly, and yet gave a feeling of exclusivity at being allowed through them. "Hi, Erica, Mark asked me to bring Amy up," Susanna told the receptionist. "Thank you, Susanna. I will let him know she is here. Susanna left and Amy turned to Erica, who was smiling sweetly. Go ahead and have a seat. I'll let Mr. Karen know you have arrived. Would you like a cup of coffee? That would be amazing, thank you. Amy sat down on one of the chairs, and soon Erica handed her a cup of coffee. Amy couldn't help but notice it was a nice cup, not a cheap paper or foam cup she got at most places she went. She couldn't help but appreciate the proper cup, as paper and foam had a way of making coffee taste different. She didn't have to wait long, and soon Erica was leading her through a hallway to the left until they came to more large wooden doors. Erica opened one of them and gestured for Amy to enter, which she did. The office in front of her was incredibly bright, which she attributed to the fact that the entire wall opposite the door was made out of glass. In the middle of the office was a large glass desk, behind which was a stern-looking man looking at her. The marble flooring continued, as did the granite walls, and Amy found she truly loved the office and the layout. Good morning. I'm Amy. I'm glad we finally get the chance to meet. I agree. Have a seat. Amy walked towards the chairs in front of the desk and took a seat, getting her first chance to observe Mark up close. She realized he was a good-looking man, if he would just smile instead of look so forbidding, with his green eyes appearing to pierce her soul. His black hair was neatly combed to the side, curling slightly at the end, indicating that it was about time for another haircut to keep it nice and straight. Now that we've met, there is something I would like to discuss. We just received your invoice, and I must say I'm shocked at how high it is. I mean, it is almost double what it would have cost me to simply hire someone, which I wasn't expecting. I understand, but if your bookkeepers would know what they were doing, and would get us the information we request in a timely and orderly fashion, we wouldn't spend as much time fixing everything. Our invoice is based on the time spent on your account. I see. You think my bookkeepers don't know what they are doing? It's clear they have some knowledge, but they need someone to supervise them, and they need additional training. Some of the mistakes are so basic, I wonder if they even went to school for accounting. Well, you sure don't mince your words. Are you always this straightforward with your clients? I find that telling the truth works best. You asked why the invoice was high, I'm giving you the reason. And you're not worried about insulting me? I'm sure your boss would not be happy if we took our business elsewhere. Look, I'm only on my third cup of coffee for the day. I need at least 6 or 7 to care what my boss thinks. Mark raised an eyebrow at that statement, as it was clear there was no love lost. So you think we can do better? Yes. If I didn't need my job so much, I'd tell you to simply hire a new CFO who can oversee those bookkeepers and make sure everything is done right. It would save you money, and it would save someone else the headache of figuring out what they did. How would you like to be my new CFO? Mark asked as if he had just asked her if she wanted more coffee, not if she wanted a job. What? You can't be serious. Oh, I am. I think we could use someone like you around here, and you've proven that you know the work and are capable of doing it. I have a non-compete clause in my contract. I can't work for you. I'll handle that if you want the job. It comes with a 6-figure salary, if that helps. Full benefits? You have got to be joking. 6 figures and full benefits? Yes, and I can't be harder to work for than that boss of yours. You might not even need 6 cups of coffee first. Look, I'd love the job simple because I've wanted to switch to corporate accounting anyway, but I can't get out of that clause in my contract. I can't work for anyone who has been our client in the past 2 years. I'll have my lawyers draw up your contract and get you out of the clause in your current one. Why don't you come back after work on Friday, and we will have dinner and discuss everything. If asked later, Mark would deny having ever done this, but there was just something about this woman. He wanted to get to know her better, unrelated to work, and he knew the best way to do that would be to have her in the same building every day. Money could do a lot of things, so he knew her contract wasn't an issue, and the dinner was an excuse to see her again. I think I can do that. Don't feel bad if you don't succeed, Amy said as she stood up to leave. I need to get back to work. I will see you on Friday." Walking back to her office, Amy couldn't help but be slightly excited at the prospect of getting out of public accounting, even though she knew she shouldn't get her hopes up. The job would be perfect, and silently she had to admit Mark wouldn't be so bad to work for. If nothing else, he was pleasing to look at, while her current boss was mean and looked like a rat. She knew it would be challenging at first to get the bookkeepers to do things the proper way, but once she had policies in place, and they knew they could come to her for anything, she had no doubt it would be a wonderful job. The salary wouldn't hurt either, as she had seen what the previous CFO was making, and if she made even half that, she'd be tripling her annual income. Goodbye student loans, hello sunny beach vacations. Chapter 2. Friday afternoon was dragging for Amy, as she tried not to think about where she was going as soon as she was done. Mark had sent her a note that gave her the name of a restaurant where they'd be having dinner, and to let her know a driver would pick her up at 5. While the driver wasn't necessary, she was silently glad as she hated the subway during rush hour, and this way she could avoid it. It was just before 5 that she realized the real reason for the driver, as her current boss came up to her desk, looking almost happy, though she wasn't entirely sure. "Make sure you take all your belongings with you, since this is your last day here. Mark Heron informed me you are starting there on Monday. There are boxes in the supply room if you need one." Amy stared after her boss, or former boss, in shock as the reality of what he had just said sunk in. She got the job. Mark had been able to get her out of her contract, and this dinner wasn't just to sign her new employment contract, it was also to celebrate. She almost jumped for joy, and almost skipped to the supply room to get a box, getting to work on boxing up everything. Several other accountants and bookkeepers came to see what she was doing, and she excitedly told them about her new job, which got her just as many envious looks as it got her congratulations. It was a happy Amy, who instantly felt like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders, who put her box in the trunk of the car at 5 o'clock on the dot. "I will take the box to your new office after taking you to the restaurant, ma'am," the driver said as they pulled away from the curb. "Thank you, that is very much appreciated." While the drive was definitely more pleasant than the subway, it also took longer as traffic was positively insane. Half the time they weren't moving at all, which is why Amy didn't arrive at the restaurant until 6. She smiled when she saw Mark waiting out front for her, and she let him help her out of the car after he opened her door. "I hope I didn't keep you waiting?" "Not at all. I planned for it to take some time for you to get here. Shall we head inside?" Amy smiled at him, and let him lead her to their table, where he pulled out her chair like a true gentleman would before sitting down himself. "Considering you are smiling, I take it you already know I was successful?" "Yes, I do. Thank you truly. I feel lighter somehow." "It was clear you were not happy there. I hope you don't mind, but I went ahead and ordered a bottle of champagne to celebrate the happy occasion." "I don't mind at all. I finally have something worth celebrating. I am curious how you did it though. Money can do a lot of things, as does knowing your competition. Your employers have some things they don't wish to have become public knowledge, and I gave them some excellent referrals for your replacement, so they won't be without a CPA long. Clearly they didn't worry about getting good lawyers for those contracts either, as my lawyers pierced right through them. All in all, it was really quite simple." "Well, thank you. I look forward to starting on Monday." "Excellent. Now before dinner, let's get the formal reason for this dinner out of the way, before we let alcohol influence anything. This is the contract. Let me know if you want to see any changes. I'm willing to negotiate." Amy took the contract and started reading, her eyes nearly popping out of her head as she did. She would be making the same as the previous CFO, which was over $500,000 a year, full health, dental and vision, 401k, pension, life insurance, and 4 weeks vacation a year. When she got to the paragraph about living arrangements, she almost forgot how to breathe. "You have an apartment for me? Our executive officers have housing provided as part of their benefits package. Besides me, there is you and our COO, whom you will meet first thing Monday. After that meeting, I will make the formal announcement during our regular Monday morning town hall meeting, which is open to all employees. We all live in the same building, where I have the penthouse and you and the COO, Kevin, split the floor below it. It is convenient as we sometimes work late, and our chef can easily prepare meals while our housekeeper can easily take care of all our homes. Chef? Housekeeper? Yes. I have a chef in my employ, and she will also be available to you. Trust me, there will be times when you'll love it, especially when it comes time for the annual audit of the books. Our housekeeper simply keeps everything clean and does your laundry, including taking anything that needs dry clean to the dry cleaner and picking it back up. With 3 of us, there is always something, and if she goes for one of us, she might as well go for all of us. I believe that good employees should be valued, and I take care of mine to ensure they will want to work hard. All employees get 3 weeks vacation starting out, and even though they are at work less than employees at other corporations, they are also more productive. It's amazing how that works. You will be busy. You will have many days where you'll want to go home and sink down on your couch with a glass of wine. The last thing you'll want to do is worry about cleaning or doing laundry or cooking dinner. Lydia is actually really excited to finally have a woman to take care of. Is there anything you'd like changed or added? No, it all looks good. Do you have a pen? 5 minutes later, the contract was signed in duplicate, and Amy was handed a check, much to her confusion. Sign-on bonus. Movers will be at your apartment tomorrow to help you pack up and move. The bonus will help with any expenses you might incur. Also, you will receive formal notice of your stock shares by Monday afternoon. Stock shares? Did I miss that? It's standard for an executive. It's incentive for you to help our company do well. If we keep up our stock prices, you benefit from it. It's also why I like the annual audit. It makes sure we aren't doing anything illegal to keep that benefit at a maximum. Now, how about some shrimp cocktails for an appetizer? And just like that, Mark switched away from the business portion of the dinner to the pleasure portion, waving over the waiter who immediately came to take their order. Amy was glad that Mark ordered for her, as she wasn't sure she could remember how to speak, and when he filled her glass with champagne, she gratefully drank half the glass, causing Mark to chuckle. You do know there is water if you are thirsty? I'm not thirsty. I needed some serious alcohol to make sure I still know how to breathe and swallow and all those normal things humans do. Mark got a slightly strange look on his face at that statement, before it went back to his normal smile, before he picked up the bottle to refill her glass. Well then, I see we need some more. If you need a minute, might I suggest looking at the menu to decide what you want as your main course? Food. Yes, let's focus on food, Amy said slightly numbly as she started focusing on her menu. She almost felt like she was living a dream, and any moment she was going to wake up and she would be back at her crappy job, working for someone who hated everyone and everything. When she placed her order and everything was still going on around her, she started to realize that not only was this very real, she also hadn't said a word in almost 20 minutes while Mark simply sat there watching her. All right. This is real. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it's apparently real as I'm still here and you're still here. Good. Now that that's settled, are you going to eat your appetizer? Amy laughed and started eating a piece of shrimp, before looking at Mark. You are taking my silence surprisingly well. I recognized that you needed a moment. Apparently your moment lasts a little longer than that of most other people, but a moment it was. I see. So nobody knows I start on Monday? Kevin knows, but he's the only one. He is out of town this weekend, otherwise you'd meet him tomorrow. Would you like to go see your apartment after dinner? I'll see it tomorrow. I want to get started on packing. I also need to make a list of everywhere I need to change my address and call my mother to inform her. You're a list person? I have lists for everything. Somehow that doesn't surprise me. So what do you like to do in your free time? I love going out into the mountains and hiking. It sounds strange since I live in the city, and I truly love it here, but when I have the time I like to escape all the hustle and bustle and go somewhere I won't encounter anyone else. It gives me the opportunity to relax. In the city I love attending plays, go to movies, or simply spend time with friends. I will admit that it surprises me that you enjoy the outdoors, but I could see why you would. Do most of your friends live in the city? They do. I'm assuming it doesn't matter if I have them at my apartment. That's fine. It's truly your space, you can entertain as much as you'd like. Lydia can help you if you need anything. I don't want you to feel like you'll be constantly watched, because you won't be. I work odd hours, and I can usually be found at the office even on the weekends. Kevin has a daughter he has every other weekend, so he'll be busy with her on those weekends. He occasionally has her on weekdays, as well when her mother needs someone to watch her, so you'll probably see her around some. How old is she? 12. She is a beautiful little girl. I've watched her grow up over the past few years. She calls me Uncle Mark, and I won't deny I love it. She is starting to turn into a young woman, and maybe it will be good for her to have a woman there to balance out us men. She's with her mother most of the time, but her mother works often and isn't home much either. I'm not great with kids, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So what do you do when you're not working? Sleep. Oh come on, there has to be something else you do. Eat? You work, eat and sleep? Yes, that about sums it up. We need to fix that. I don't know Kevin, but I'm sure if I talk to him we could get you to do more than that. You need to find time to wind down and relax or you'll go insane. I assure you I'm fine, but you are welcome to try, Mark replied with a smile as he thought about spending more time with Amy. He found he was enjoying it, and he wanted to do so more often. I'll consider that a challenge, and I never back down from a challenge. I do have to say though, that I have to get home if I want to have any chance of moving this weekend. There is an awful lot to do. Very well. Give me a moment to pay the bill, and I can have my driver drop you off at home. Thank you, that would be great. I really don't like taking the subway, even though it's easy to use and often faster. You'll be able to walk to work from now on, and if the weather is ever bad, I have our driver pick us up. I'll use an umbrella, thank you. Mark chuckled, and as soon as he had signed the slip, he got up before helping her up out of her chair. We'll see. It's just rain, you won't melt, Amy said with a shake of her head. Mark looked at her strangely, but Amy wasn't sure what that look meant, so she ignored it, letting him lead her out of the restaurant. The ride to her apartment didn't take long, and for some reason Amy felt herself wishing it had lasted longer. They hadn't spoken in any way, but she felt comfortable in his presence, and there was something about him that drew her in. Even though they weren't talking, she didn't think the silence was awkward, and she was looking forward to many more times where they could simply sit together without saying a word. She immediately wanted to shake those thoughts out of her head. He was her boss. She knew that this weekend she had to focus on moving and getting settled into her new place, which she still couldn't quite believe was real, and on Monday she'd have to start the hard job of retraining all the bookkeepers. She knew she would be busy, but she found herself looking forward to the meeting with Kevin and Mark on Monday morning. She was brought out of her musing when the car stopped in front of her building. Thank you, Mark. For everything. Good luck with the moving. If you need any help, call me. I will stop by on Sunday to see if you got settled in all right. With that, Amy got out of the car and walked up to her apartment, only to find it filled with movers. Hi. Good evening, ma'am. Mr. Karen hired us to help you pack. Is there anything you'd like to do yourself? An older man said with a smile when Amy came in. Everyone around them continued working, and it was clear this man was in charge. My office, thank you. Should I ask how you got in? I wouldn't. He wanted to make sure your move went smoothly, with as little work for you as possible. We will also be at your new place to help you unpack. All you have to do is tell us where to put everything. The new apartment is fully furnished, is there any furniture you want to keep as opposed to putting it in your storage locker in the basement of your new building? I have a storage locker? Yes, ma'am. It is large enough to hold all your furniture, and it is climate controlled. So, is there any furniture you'd like to keep? I don't think so, but I might change my mind once I see the apartment. I don't actually know what's there. Very well. When we get there tomorrow, I'll ask you again. I need to get back to ensuring everything is going well. If you need anything, just let me know. Amy looked around her apartment, and all the people in it. She watched her entire life being packed into boxes at a pace that scared her. This morning she went to work as if it was any other Friday, and now she was packing up her life to move to an apartment she had never seen. With a big sigh, she walked to her small office, where she grabbed several file boxes that were already there and ready to be used. She was glad they were letting her do her office herself, as she had a filing system she was proud of, which now that she thought about it sounded really sad. She needed a life that didn't revolve around organization, lists, or numbers, and she found herself hoping Mark would be part of that life. She could use the excuse that Mark needed more fun in his life, and have more fun in her own life as well. With that thought, she got to work, and several hours later everything was in boxes. She walked into the living room to see that there wasn't anything left to pack, and the movers were simply stacking all the boxes so that they would be easier to move the next day. She saw the same thing in her bedroom, and was amazed they had gotten it done so fast. Ma'am? We are done for tonight. We will be here at 8 in the morning to start moving. Once we have loaded up the truck, you are welcome to ride over with us, unless you would prefer to meet us there. I will probably go over after you get here and look at the apartment, so I have an idea of where things should go. Very well. I'm assuming you know where to go. Yes, I do. Mark gave me a card with the address and the access code for the elevator. Excellent. We will be coming up through the service elevator once we are ready to move things in. Lydia will be there as well to help. You seem very familiar with the building and with Mark. I am. Lydia is my wife, he answered with a smile. I own this moving company and usually don't help myself, but when Mr. Karen asks for our services, I always supervise to ensure excellent service. I must admit I'm impressed so far. I will see you in the morning. Chapter 3. Amy looked up at the building in front of her and double-checked the address on her card. This was it. This was where she would be living from now on. The canopy that led to the street indicated you really didn't have to get wet if you didn't want to, even when leaving to go somewhere, and the doorman was smiling at her as she simply stared. Good morning, Miss Taylor, the doorman greeted as he opened the door for her. Amy looked surprised for a minute, before realizing he had probably been well informed about her arrival. She walked to the elevators, and once she got in, she put in the code she had been given. She noticed there were no floor numbers, just a keypad, and she assumed everyone had their own code, so nobody could get to any of the floors without one. She had to remember to ask how that worked with friends, since she had a feeling she wasn't supposed to simply give out the number she had. As she stepped out of the elevator, she noticed 2 doors, one to the right and one to the left. She was apartment B, which was the one to the right, and suddenly realized she didn't have a key. That problem was answered when the door opened, and a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and slightly graying hair stepped out. Antoine let me know you were on your way up. Antoine is the doorman. Make sure you give him your approved list. Those are the people who can come up here. As long as they have ID on them, Antoine will use his code in the elevator to allow them to come up, and then notify you of doing so. I'm Lydia, let me show you around. I must say it's nice to have another woman around here. John and I live a couple floors down, but with our schedules we don't interact with a lot of the other residents. It's nice to meet you. I will admit, I'm still a bit in shock and overwhelmed. Understandable. Mr. Karen can have that effect on people. He spoke very highly of you, and you must have made an impression on him to get him to move so fast. I have a problem with speaking before I think sometimes, and I simply told him what I thought. He seemed to like it, which is now turning out to be a good thing. Apparently so. All right, this is the living room, as you can tell, Lydia said as she started the tour. Amy looked around as she followed Lydia, and found herself really liking the place. The living room was done in cream colors, with a few burgundy red accents throughout. The couch looked comfortable, and the sitting area was in front of a fireplace she was excited to try. She could see herself curling up on that couch with a good book on a cold winter night. The main living area was open to the kitchen area, which made the room look much larger than it probably was, with a dining table separating the two. The kitchen was done in whites, and while it was nice, it wasn't overly large, which Amy liked. She could never see herself living in a huge mansion, wanting the comfort of something feeling like home, not a museum. Off the side was a laundry room, which Lydia promptly told her was her domain and she'd better not catch Amy there. Down a hallway were several doors, the first of which opened to an office. It was the size of her bedroom in her old apartment, and already had bookshelves lining the walls and a large wooden desk in the middle. The comfortable chairs in front of the desk indicated she could have people visiting her even while she was working. The next door Lydia opened was a guest room, which was done in simple soft yellows and blues. Each bedroom has its own bathroom, Lydia said simply before closing the door again. She knew Amy would explore in more detail later. The next door was another guest room, this one done in yellows and greens, before Lydia opened the third door, this one next to the office. This is the master suite. Amy walked in and her jaw dropped at seeing it. The large king-size bed was done in beautiful mahogany, and there were matching side tables and a dresser. To the left was a sliding door which revealed a walk-in closet, while to the right was a door that she assumed opened to the bathroom. That appeared to be correct when she walked into a bathroom with double sinks, standing shower and whirlpool tub, which was situated right in front of the large window. She knew immediately that the view would be stunning at night when she could see all the city lights, and she smiled as she turned back to face Lydia. This is amazing. I'm not sure what to do with all this space, but it is done really well. I'm sure you'll find something. The building has a pool and a gym down on the ground floor, which you are free to use. If you take the elevator down to the ground floor, push the button for gym after putting in your code, and it will open the elevator doors on the other side to give you access. It's not overly large, but it will suffice for what you might need. Thank you, Lydia. I'm sure I'll have lots of questions later on, but for now, I need to get ready for the movers to get here. I won't need any furniture, so it's really just my belongings. My bed in my old apartment was queen size, so I suppose I need to get new sheets and all that. John already gave me the heads up on that last night, so I've ordered some that I think will go well in this room. I hope you don't mind. Not at all, thank you. I really don't like shopping, so I'm glad I don't have to. Excellent. I love shopping, so anytime you need anything, feel free to let me know. Now, have you had breakfast? I had a banana, so I'm fine. That's not breakfast. Come on, I'll fix you something. I have several batches of muffins and cookies and the like for the men once they get here, but you need something substantial. Once they are here, you likely won't be able to stop and sit for a while. Do you like eggs? Bacon? Yes to both, but really I'm fine. Nonsense. So how did you meet Mr. Karen? Lydia and Amy talked amicably as Amy sat at the breakfast bar in the kitchen while Lydia cooked, both about Lydia, as well as Amy's introduction to Mark. Amy hadn't realized how much time had passed until the movers started showing up and they all got to work, which for Amy meant pointing to a room and for Lydia making sure the movers ate her baked goods. It was well into the afternoon when they finally finished, and the second Mark walked into the apartment, Lydia and John also left. What do you think of the apartment? Mark asked as he looked around. It's very nice. Those movers were amazing. I didn't even have to unpack. Lydia took care of unpacking my clothing so she'd know where everything was, or at least that's what she said. I have much more space than I know what to do with. So I thought you worked all the time. What are you doing here? I came to see if you would like to have dinner with me. I gave Lydia the night off since she worked so hard to prepare for your arrival, and while I have no doubt you can take care of yourself, I'd like to take you out to dinner. I'm actually a terrible cook, and microwave meals are my friend. So while we are here, are you my boss or are you simply the guy who lives above me? I'm your neighbor. Would you prefer somewhere casual or more fancy? Casual. I'm wearing jeans and a sweatshirt and have no intention of changing. Excellent. I know a Greek restaurant that I think you'll like. It's just around the corner. I'll run upstairs and change out of my suit, and I'll meet you down in the lobby. Sound good? Perfect. When Amy saw Mark come out of the elevator wearing jeans and a cashmere sweater, she almost fainted. Nobody should look that good in jeans, she thought, and clearly his tailor-made suits were hiding what an incredible
censored
he had. Despite the fact that the clothing were clearly still designer, they made him look younger and much more laid back. She decided then and there to always suggest things that would get him to wear jeans. Amy also immediately knew the doorman was gay, considering he gave Mark a very appreciating look as he walked out, which Amy immediately countered with a look that told him Mark was hers and to back off. I saw that, Mark commented casually as they walked down the street. Saw what? That look you just gave him. It's flattering, I won't deny it. Don't get too full of yourself. Of course, wouldn't dream of it. Throughout dinner they talked about fairly inconsequential things, and Amy found herself having a wonderful time. When she was in bed later that night, she found herself replaying it over and over in her head, wondering if she was really falling for her boss. She had always told herself she would not be one of those girls who starting dating someone at work, only for it to fall apart and become a complete disaster. Now she realized she wanted nothing more than to spend time with Mark, and she hoped she would be able to hide it. Monday morning came quickly, and when Amy was getting ready for the day, she realized she was incredibly nervous, which is why she was very thankful to see Lydia in her kitchen when she walked out. I assumed you'd want a good breakfast before your first day. Mr. Karen said the meeting is at 8. Thank you. That gives me 30 minutes to eat breakfast. It smells amazing. Chocolate chip waffles with bacon. Don't do that every day. I'd be twice the size I am now by Christmas, Amy chuckled. Lydia just smiled as she put a plate in front of Amy, before also putting a large cup of coffee in front of her. Mr. Karen mentioned that you need coffee in the morning. He actually asked me to make you a large pot, and make sure you drink at least 2 cups before leaving the house. He has a point, Amy said, trying not to smile at the fact that Mark had not only remembered, he also cared enough to let their housekeeper know. My first talk to him was when I was low on coffee. Mr. Karen is the same way, he drinks a lot of coffee. It is the first thing I do for all of you when I get up here in the morning. Amy thought about that while she ate her breakfast, finding it interesting that Mark had never mentioned his love for coffee in all his time with her, even though he had brought up hers several times. She also realized she was going to be late if she didn't finish eating, and soon she was rushing out the door. A larger man in his mid-40s, she thought, with a friendly smile walked out of apartment right around the same time. You must be Amy. I am. Kevin? Sure am. You ready for your first day? I just hope they accept me. I take it you don't live at the office either? Kevin chuckled and shook his head as he pushed the button to go down to the lobby. I do not. I love my job, but there is a limit to everything. So what did you do to get Mark to love you so much? He stopped by last night to tell me he hired you, which I knew he had been trying. I just didn't know he was successful and he couldn't stop talking about you. I have no idea. Maybe it was simply time someone told him the truth. Kevin laughed out loud at that one, and looked at Amy sideways as they walked out into the morning sun. I like you. Assuming you're as good at accounting as you must be for Mark to hire you, I could see us working together for a long time. I'd like you to meet my daughter, she's coming next weekend. I'd love to, but I will tell you up front, I'm not great with kids. Fair enough. If any of the employees give you a hard time, let me know. Don't tell Mark he'd just fire them. Thanks. I'm sure I can handle it, but it's good to know I have people who will back me up if needed. The introduction to the employees went much better than Amy could have ever predicted. They welcomed her with open arms, and it was clear the accounting department was happy to finally have leadership again. Susanna admitted that they'd all felt lost, and she had liked Amy from the moment they had started working together and was looking forward to that continuing. Amy immediately got to work after the company-wide meeting and called a small meeting with just the accountants and support staff. She made it clear that she wanted them to come to her with any questions or if they weren't sure on something. She would also be evaluating their workloads and seeing where extra training might be needed. She made it clear to them that everyone could do everything if they were properly trained, and that she didn't want one person having too much work while another held coffee breaks all day. When she arrived home that evening and found Mark on her couch, holding out a glass of wine for her to take, she kicked off her shoes and gratefully took it before falling down on the couch. She knew it didn't look graceful, but she was in her own home, and if he chose to be there when she got home, he better get used to her getting comfortable. Thank you, this was just what I needed. Julia is in the kitchen, putting the finishing touches on dinner. I heard good things about you, and I won't deny that I did a little bit of spying on your staff in the break rooms. They love that you're there and you are approachable, and they love that you've taken charge right from the start. Do you want to go change into something more comfortable? You look great in that skirt, don't get me wrong, but I can't imagine it's comfortable in any way. It's not, but I have this boss who I don't think will appreciate me showing up to work in sweatpants. You are right though, I'm home now. I'll be back in a minute. Mark laughed as Amy left the room, to return a few minutes later wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt. Amy didn't miss the fact that his eyes roamed over her body when she walked back in, inwardly smiling as she knew that she had picked the sweatpants that framed her.
Censored.
The best. Before she could sit back down, there was a knock on the door, and with her glass of wine still in her hand, she went to open it. Kevin? Come on in. I see you've brought a friend. Wine? Sweatpants? From what I heard, your first day wasn't that bad. Kevin laughed as he walked in, a young girl right behind him. Uncle Mark, she yelled as she practically launched herself at the couch to hug Mark. Your daughter? Amy asked. Yes. Caroline, be polite and come meet Amy. She'll be living here. Hi, Amy, Caroline said, not getting up from her place on the couch. Nice to meet you, Caroline. Are you two staying for dinner? Well, I actually came to introduce Caroline and see if Lydia was here, which I see she is. I shouldn't be surprised Mark is here as well. He was here when I got home. I won't go into the fact that he can get into my apartment, or that he left work before either of us. That's unusual. I would not mind staying for dinner if Julia made enough, and that wine looks amazing. Amy laughed and motioned for Kevin to sit before walking to the kitchen. Is there enough for Kevin and Caroline to join us? Absolutely. I was going to take some of this up to him anyway. Need a refill on your wine? Yes, and one for Kevin, please. I don't know what Caroline drinks. She loves tomato juice. I'll get some. Somehow Amy managed to balance 3 glasses in her hands without spilling anything, and she handed Kevin his wine. I have been told you like tomato juice? Amy asked Caroline as she handed her the glass. Love it, but Daddy won't let Lydia buy it for us. Well, then you'll just have to come over here, because I saw a lot of it in my fridge. Amy sat back down on the couch, smiling when Caroline remained leaned up against Mark. He was clearly good with her, and she didn't think there was anything better than a man who was good with kids. Why are you with your dad today? Mark asked. I got in trouble at school and got grounded, but Mom had to work so she dropped me off here. I like it better here anyway. At Mom's I'm always alone until she comes home, but here I have you guys and Lydia and John. What did you do to get in trouble? It's nothing, Uncle Mark. It was stupid. Young lady, that's not what I asked. Amy almost raised an eyebrow at how stern Mark suddenly was with her, and she looked at Kevin, who appeared to find this normal. Seeing her look, Kevin explained. Mark pays for her schooling as part of my benefits package, but in return she has to work hard and do well. Mark says as long as she tries her best, he's happy, but he takes an active interest in making sure she's getting the best education she can possibly get. Private schools can get really expensive, and I'm very grateful to work for someone who values education. Amy just nodded that it made sense, watching Caroline try to squirm away from Mark. So Mark really cared about his employees, and he knew that Caroline deserved the best education she could get, which he was able to provide. The fact that he actively stayed on top of her studies, instead of just paying the bill and forgetting about her, said a lot. Amy knew she was lost, and if Mark were to invite her into his bed, she knew she'd say yes. Uncle Mark, it's fine, really? Young lady, you have 3 seconds to tell me what got you in trouble, or you can go stand in the corner. It's not fair. Mom already lectured me. Caroline, just tell him, Kevin said calmly. You know you will eventually anyway, and you like it when Uncle Mark cares about what's going on in your life. Fine. I didn't do my math homework, and when my teacher asked about it, I said a bad word. That wasn't so hard, was it? Mark asked, pulling her back into a hug. What are you doing after dinner? I have a feeling that regardless of what I had planned, I'll be doing homework. Excellent. Then I will say no more on it. I think dinner is about ready. You want to move to the table? Amy loved the evening they all spent together, as it appeared Mark was more relaxed and they simply enjoyed their time. Nobody brought up work, and when Caroline was sent to go get her homework, she was allowed to do it at Amy's kitchen table, so she could still be in the room with them. It felt so normal that Amy wanted every evening to be like that. A week later, Mark was once again in her apartment, waiting for her when she arrived home, once again holding a glass of wine. You really are allowed to do this every day, you know that, right? Amy asked as she took the glass of wine. I don't know that, Mark replied calmly. You don't mind that I'm here? Not at all. I find myself enjoying your company, and find myself missing something when you aren't here. I can't believe I just admitted that out loud. I'm glad you did. I realized the same thing, and felt drawn to come here every day, but stopped myself, thinking you wouldn't want me to. Don't stop yourself in the future. Look, I want to date you properly, Mark said after a moment's pause. Even though it might not be entirely proper considering we work together, but I've wanted to since the moment we met. There are some things you need to know about me before we ever could, though, and I'm afraid it might ruin what we have now. Is whatever this is something Kevin knows about? Yes, he does. He's actually the only one who does. Then whatever it is, it won't affect how I feel. He is a great guy, and he would never let his daughter near anyone he had doubts about. So what is it? Almost 60 years ago, my parents had to move from where they were for fear of their lives. They had to abandon everything they had and everything they knew, and move to this world they knew nothing about, and where they wouldn't be accepted if people knew. They adopted a different look to fit in, and soon they had established themselves here in the city. When I was born, I had to change my looks as well, and as I grew up I was comfortable in these new looks. However, I knew that inside I would always be different, and that any children I had would always be different. I have been very successful in life, and I've been afraid it would all get ruined if people found out, so I haven't told anyone. Kevin knows because there are certain times that I have to get rid of my other look and just be myself, and he knows not to disturb me no matter what when I do that. I'm sure you've seen movies about aliens and all that, and a lot of that isn't true, but some of it is. Aliens exist, despite what many people believe, and they are often much more intelligent, business and technology savvy than humans. They don't usually come to this planet for any reason, because the atmosphere is so different than on their home planets, they simply don't like it. Amy, my parents weren't from this planet and I'm not fully human. Amy looked skeptical, thinking this couldn't be true and was some kind of strange joke, but seeing how serious Mark was, she knew she didn't have a choice but to believe him. I see. It's hard to believe, so I'm sorry if I seem skeptical. Do you have proof? Mark nodded and stood up. There is a reason I asked Lydia not to be here until later. I'm going to change forms, but please don't run away until I've changed back. I want to be able to talk about it. Fair enough. Go ahead, Amy replied, still not believing it was real. How could it? Aliens didn't exist, and while she knew there was a good chance there was life on other planets they didn't know about, she didn't believe they could actually come to Earth. Her mouth dropped open as she watched Mark close his eyes, before suddenly it was like an invisible shield had fallen. His skin started disappearing, as did all his other features, and she couldn't describe what was underneath it all. It was about the same height as Mark had been, and stood on two legs with what looked like two arms, but its head almost connected with its torso, could you even call it that, and was much smaller. The strangest thing about it was that it was almost completely translucent, and no organs were visible from what she could see, so she assumed it didn't have any. She knew her reaction should be one of fear and shock, possibly even coupled with some nausea, but all she felt was turned on. It was the most beautiful creature she had ever seen, and she found herself getting up and walking over to it, getting an up-close look. There didn't appear to be a mouth or nose, but the eyes were big in the small head. There were only 2 fingers on the end of each arm, without a distinct hand. She reached out to touch it, and it let her before the arm reached around her and pulled her into a hug. She realized it felt just as soft as human skin, and she felt comfortable in that hug. She also wanted more, but had already seen that wasn't going to be possible as it didn't have any
censored
organs. She stepped back and waited for him to put his human appearance back on, watching in fascination as Mark came back and looked at her with a smile. You didn't run. That has to be the sexiest thing I have ever seen. I would have jumped you like that, except I don't think it's possible, is it? It's not, since my species reproduces differently, but like this it is perfectly possible. Like this, my body serves as a way to transfer my genes to you, and have you fall pregnant with a baby who is of my species as opposed to merely human. It's also why I have to wear a condom, unless you want to become pregnant, because it only takes once. Birth control doesn't stop it, and you don't have to be ovulating either. Interesting. Condom it is then, at least for now. You have some? Yes. What are you saying? I'm saying you should come with me to my bedroom. Come on, Mark, don't deny you want this because I know you do. There's one other thing. I can't have sex with someone I don't love or with whom I'm not intending to marry. I had a brother who tried, and there is a reason I'm an only child now. I see. Do you love me? I do. Do you want to marry me? Not right now, but if you're willing to take it slow? I don't know what it is about you, but in the span of 2 weeks I find myself wanting nothing more. Then let's take it to the bedroom, Mark said as he grabbed her by the hand and started leading her down the hall. Once inside, he turned her around and started undoing the zipper on her dress slowly, before letting it slide down her shoulders and back. Amy was instantly glad she had decided to wear matching lingerie that day, which she often didn't bother with, and knew she looked good. She once again imagined Mark as he had been in the living room, and felt excitement course through her. As soon as she was out of her dress, she turned around again and started undoing the buttons on Mark's shirt, realizing that his clothes had disappeared and reappeared along with his skin. She'd have to ask him about that later.
This scene has been censored to provide a safe and enjoyable reading experience for everyone.
As he laid down beside her, she smiled at him and rolled into his arms. You're staying, right? Definitely. I like your apartment better than mine. Mine is really too large. I like mine, I don't want anything bigger. I do expect a ring, by the way. Mark laughed, and Amy felt his laugh go through his whole body. Demanding little thing, aren't you? I think I can manage a ring. We'll have to do a formal announcement as well, that way it will avoid awkward rumors. We have to tell Kevin, Caroline, Lydia and John first though. They'd all be mad at us if we didn't, and quite frankly Lydia scares me when she's angry. Agreed. She scolded me earlier this week for not wanting to eat breakfast, and I will never miss breakfast again. I love the group of friends we have, and how comfortable we all are. Agreed. It's why I love having Kevin, Lydia, and John live in the same building. It can get really lonely otherwise, but I doubt it will be that way going forward. Going forward, I expect you at home with a glass of wine when I get home. Or at least a glass of wine waiting for me, if you have to work late. I'll do that. With those amazing sweatpants. Those really ought to be illegal. So, are you ready to go out and eat dinner? I have no doubt Lydia is already here. Let's go tell her. She'll be excited, of that I have no doubt. Besides, we've just made her job a whole lot easier, Amy said with a smile while getting up. She knew they were moving fast, and she knew it was unconventional, but she had always done things the unconventional way. So what if he was an alien? He was gorgeous and kind, gentle and loving, and he truly cared. She couldn't ask for more than that in a man, and if the sight of him in his other form always had that effect on her, she would not be opposed to seeing it more regularly. Thank you for reading my book. If you like this story, I think you'll enjoy my book. His to take. A big favor to ask. I would really love it if you could take a few seconds to leave me a review. Thank you so much in advance. About the author. Selina Coffey is a romance writer who lives happily in London with her husband and son. She is a hopeless romantic who grew up always believing in love, and she is not ashamed to admit this. It is this belief that makes her so passionate about writing crazy love stories. A stereotypical girly girl, she loves shopping. So whenever she gets a chance and the spare cash, you will probably find her browsing online for the next pair of shoes to add to her collection. You can find her online at www.selinacoffey.com. Contact her at hello@selinacoffey.com. Closing credits. This has been Alien Boss. Written by Selina Coffey. Auto-narrated using Google technology. Copyright 2024 by Lovie Books Limited. Production copyright 2024 by Lovie Books Limited.